Hello boys and girls, this is Miss Coville, and this lesson is for all 5th grade students at Bethune Elementary. This video will be on lesson 26, finding volume using formulas. And we will be covering the standard MGSE5, MD5A, and MD5B. These standards involve finding the volume of right rectangular prisms. Students should have experiences to describe and reason about why the formula is true, specifically that they are covering the bottom of a right rectangular prism, length times width, with multiple layers, height. Therefore, the formula length times width times height is an extension of the formula for the area of a rectangle. Some vocabulary that you may see and hear in the video are volume, area, length, width, and height. Be sure to press pause and write down on notes and work in your packet or on a blank sheet of paper. All right, boys and girls, let's get started. So we're going to study the example problem showing different ways to find the volume of a rectangular prism. Then we're going to solve problems 1 through 5. So our example says a gift box is 3 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 3 inches tall. What is the volume of the box? You can fill the box with 1-inch cubes. Count the cubes. There are 18 cubes. You can also count the cubes in one layer. There are 6 cubes in one layer. So if we look at our cube to the right, if we look at the top, we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes in that top layer. And the box has 3 layers. So if I see there's 1, 2, 3 layers, I know that 6 times 3 will give me 18, or I can do 6 plus 6 plus 6, which will also give me 18, because I know that there are 6 cubes in each layer, and I can add 6 3 times. So the volume of the box is 18 cubic inches. Again, because we're measuring it in inches, that is our unit of measurement. So our volume is 18 cubic inches. Rectangular prism at the right here, is made of centimeter cubes. Fill in the blanks to show the number of centimeters on each edge. So we see on this side we have our height, on the bottom we have our length, and on the side we have our width. Press pause, and based on your knowledge from the previous video, fill in the blanks. So you should have filled in your height, which is right here on the side. Our height is 2 centimeters because we see that there are 2 layers, and these 2 layers will represent our height, 2 centimeters. We see our length, which is our bottom of our base, is 6 centimeters because we see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes, centimeter cubes at the bottom. And now let's look to the side at our width. I see that there are 2 centimeter cubes at the base for my width. So question B says, complete the following sentences. The bottom layer has, so I know the bottom layer has how many cubes? How did I calculate my bottom layer based off my previous video? I got it. In order for me to calculate my bottom layer, I multiply my length, 6 centimeters, times my width, 2 centimeters. So I know that 6 times 2 is 12. So I know the bottom layer has 12 cubes. There are how many layers? I identified that there are 2 layers. So I know that there are 2 layers. What is the volume of the rectangular prism? So based on our previous video, we stated volume equals length times width times height. So press pause and calculate the volume on your own. So the volume is 24 cubic centimeters. How did I find that? I simply multiplied my length, 6 centimeters, times my width, 2 centimeters, times my height, 2 centimeters. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. Now some may think, Miss Coville, I got my answer using a different formula. Which formula did you use? I multiplied 12, the number of cubes on my bottom layer, by 2, the number of layers, and I got the same answer, 24 cubic centimeters. And that is correct as well. D, suppose you add another layer to the prism. What will the new volume be? So if we add another layer to the prism, we know that if we have 2 layers as our height and we add another layer, that means our height will be 3. So 3 will be our height. So now that we have a new height, our length and our width stays the same. Calculate that on a scratch piece of paper, press pause, and write it in the space below. So the new volume will be 36 cubic centimeters. Now, some of you may have found 36 in one of 2 ways. You could have simply added 24 plus 12, because I know that there are 12 cubes on each layer. So if I added one more layer, I know that 24 plus 12 gives me 36. Or I can simply multiply 3 times the area of my base. The area of my base will always be my length, 6, multiplied by my width, 2. 6 times 2 is 12. So I multiply 3, which is my new height. 3 times 12 will give me 36. Make sure you're pressing pause and you're writing this down on a packet or on your scratch piece of paper. Let's go to the next page. All right, question 2 says, what is the volume of this rectangular prism? So now is your opportunity to use the space below and solve on your own. Press pause and do so now. So your answer should look as such. The volume is 15 cubic feet. Again, make sure you use the correct unit of measurement. This rectangular prism is being measured in feet. So our answer is in cubic feet. How do we get 15? We used our formula, length times width times height. Our length is 3 and our width is 1. So I found 3 times 1, which is a product of 3. Now I take that answer, which is the area of my base, 3 multiplied by my height, which is 5. 3 times 5 will give me 15. Question 3 says, Max fills this box with 1-inch cubes. This box to our right. Tell how many cubes are in one layer and how many layers there are. Then find the volume. So press pause and see if you can work this out on your own. All right, boys and girls. So you should have gotten 10 as the amount of cubes per layer. How did you get 10? Because we know that if we multiply our length, 5, times our width, 2, that will tell us the amount of cubes on each layer. So 5 times 2 is 10. Now, it asks us how many layers there are. Remember from our first video, our height will tell us how many layers there are. Our height is 4 inches. So I know that there are 4 layers. Now, if I multiply the area of my base, or the amount of cubes in each layer, which is 10, times my height, or the amount of layers, which is 4, I will get 40 cubic inches. So the volume is 40 cubic inches. Make sure you write this down, press pause, and let's go to question 4. Question 4 says a toy box has a volume of 60 cubic feet. The box is 5 feet long and 4 feet wide. What is the height of the toy box? Show your work in the space below. So let's figure this thing out. So if I know my formula, volume equals length times width times height. So let's see, what do I have here given to me? So I've been given my volume of my toy box, which is 60 cubic feet. So I can plug that into my formula, 60. This box is 5 feet long and 4 feet wide. What is the height? So I can plug in my length, which is 5, and I can plug in my width, which is 4. So now I can go ahead and I can break this down a little further. So I know my volume is 60, and I know 5 times 4 is 20. But I still need to find my height. So that means I need to do what, boys and girls? I need to divide. But this may look a little intimidating. So I can also think to myself, what can I multiply 20 by to get 60? So I know that 2 times 3 is 6. And if I add a 0, that will give me 60. So that means my height will be what, boys and girls? 3. So 3 will be my height. So if I do 20 times 3, that gives me 60. And 60 is my volume. So I know that the height is 3 feet. Question 5 says George has 41-inch cubes. What are 2 different ways that he can stack the cubes to make a rectangular prism? On your own, write your answer in the space below. So a possible answer choice could be he can make 4 layers with 10 cubes in each layer. Or he could also make 5 layers with 5 cubes in each layer. All right, let's go to the next page. So now we're going to study the problem showing us how to use formulas to find the volume of a rectangular prism. Then we're going to solve problems 1 through 7. So our example, Gwen puts her leftover food in a rectangular container. The container is 6 inches long, 5 inches wide, and 4 inches tall. What is the volume of the container? So we're going to use the formula, volume equals length times width times height. So we know our volume is going to equal our length, which is 6 inches, times 5, which is our width, times 4, which is our height. And that gives us a product of 120 cubic inches. Or use the formula, volume equals area of the base times height. So the area of the base will be length times width. And you take that product and you multiply it by your height. So that means we would do 6 times 5 gives us 30. And then we multiply that product, 30 times 4, which will give us 120 cubic inches. Let's move on to question 1. Question 1 says, Ted's box is 4 inches tall, 3 inches long, and 1 inch wide. Part A tells us to label the picture in the box with its dimensions. So let's label it together. So I see that this right here, this section will be what? This will be my height. And it tells me in the description that it's 4 inches tall. So I need to put my 4 in this space right here. Now it also tells me that it is 3 inches long. So I know my length goes on my base at the bottom. So I know that it is 3 inches long. It'll go in that space right here. And it is 1 inch wide. Now that I have my dimensions, I can find my volume. So press pause and in the space below or on a piece of scratch paper, calculate the volume of this box. All right, you should have gotten the volume is 12 cubic inches. How do we get that? We used our formula, length times width times height. Now I found the area of my base, 3 times 1, which is my length times my width, and I found that product to be 3. Then I took that product, 3, the area of my base, and I multiplied it by the height, 4. 3 times 4 will give me 12. And again, you always put your unit of measurement at the end. So you're not just putting numbers, you're putting 12 cubic inches. Now let's move on to question 2. Question 2 says, a rectangular prism has a square base with sides that are 2 feet long. The height of the prism is 5 feet. What is the volume of the prism? Let's do that one on your own. Press pause and see if you can figure it out. All right, so the volume that you should have gotten is 20 cubic feet. How did you get that? So if you look at the picture that I've drawn to the right, I have a prism. And on my prism, you see that my height is 5 feet. Now in our description, it says the rectangular prism has a square base with sides that are 2 feet long. So if my prism has sides that are 2 feet long, that means that both my length and my width need to be 2 feet long. So if we use our formula, length times width times height, I have 2 times 2 times 5. I then will multiply 4 times 5, which will give me 20. And again, my answer is the volume is 20 cubic feet because the unit of measurement is in feet. Now on your own, you'll be working on pages 278, 279, and 280 on your own. Be sure to re-watch this video as well as the video from yesterday if you are in need of help.